Let's write the first track of my upcoming EP OMICRON, a musical journey to an abandoned planetary mining colony on the other side of the galaxy. We received a mysterious radio signal with 5 notes repeating over and over again, and we signed up to investigate the mysterious event. Track 1 will serve to introduce and establish the main motif, that 5-note radio transmission. The track needs to build a foundation for the rest of the record and set the mood for what's to come. I chose a trailer track structure for this one, with a length of just under 3 minutes, an intro, build-up, and a bombastic climax at the end. Let's first compose a thematic building block. This block will contain the main musical ideas and serve as our track's core puzzle piece that we can then simplify to build an intro and scale up for the climax part at the end. Please be aware that the track is a work in progress. Not everything is polished yet, and things can change and evolve as we go. Let's start with the main motif, our 5-note centerpiece played by a hybrid felt piano and a gorgeous synth ping. Lots of reverb and a spacious stereo field help us create an atmosphere of outer space. We'll duplicate this motif to reach a total of 16 bars for this building block. Next, let's step record a synth bass line that will serve as an ostinato. You get the idea. In full speed, it sounds like this. Very nice. I duplicate the MIDI to a second synth to add more depth and draw a simple cut-off filter line in the modulation. This will add movement to the bass line that starts very low, ominous and undefined and opens to a more raw and bitey sound. The main motif has a few long notes that ring out. I want to fill these gaps with distinct sounds that will make the track more memorable. For these atmospheric sweeteners, I chose 2 signature sounds. The second signature sound is quite dry and definitely not very spacey yet. So I add a delay and some massive black hole reverb to make it echo through the galaxy. Again, I duplicate it to fill the 16 bars of our building block. I deliberately keep things very modular and simple here. 2 pedal note pads fill out the space and add some additional atmosphere. Cool, we now got our central puzzle piece. We set up a wide and spacious atmosphere, a recognizable main motif, and a 16th note ostinato that cycles through the bars with rising intensity and modulation. Now, let me tell you something. Initially, I had written this exact building block as the intro for my song, but then I struggled to follow up with the good build-up part. It was already so complex that every additional musical idea I introduced made it sound too busy. I then scheduled a session with my amazing mentor, the man, the myth, the legend, Alex Pfeffer, who immediately identified the problem and told me what I needed to hear. If I want to tell a story, I shouldn't reveal the entire plot in the very beginning. A story needs to be built over time, so the listener is committed and wants to know what happens next. After hearing Alex's great suggestions, I will put this building block back in the track and write an intro based on those musical ideas, but simplified. Maybe I should not present the entire 5 main note motif already in the first seconds, but gradually reveal it note by note. Let's start with only 2 notes, then silence, while the signature sounds and synth bass add a rhythmic foundation and drive to the intro. Next, we'll add a 3rd note, and only in the final variation of the intro, the full motif is presented. I want to apply the same principle of simplicity to the synth bass. Let's reduce the complexity by emphasizing the root note and only add occasional variations to add interest throughout the intro. There will be enough time in the song to reach that point of complexity from our building block, and we will slowly increase it with every repetition. I'll add another rhythmic bass pulse for additional drive, and again modulate it for that extra bit of interestingness. We now turned our core building block into an intro that introduces us to the main motif, adds that driving ostinato but with simpler notes, and has a rhythmic foundation with the synth bass and signature sounds. I finally added a riser that catapults us into one bar of silence to prepare us for the middle part. I know it sounds a bit empty and could need a few more atmospheric elements and effects. I'll add them later, but for now, to get an overall idea of the track's character and structure, this will do. Now, let's move to the other extreme of our track and build the thick wall of sound for our epic climax. I'm sure you already have a pretty good idea of what a trailer music climax sounds like. We want a massive but well-balanced sound. A few elements are enough if layered appropriately. What can serve as the main melody for the climax part? We could write something new, but risk sounding disconnected from the rest of the song. Well, if the insanely well-crafted trailer track for Marvel's Black Widow can get away with 4 notes for the entire track, then surely we can with the 5 notes of our main motif, this time with different chords underneath. A female choir, raspy synth lead, violas, cellos, trumpets, and a barrage of horns should be enough to make it sound big. For the second half of the climax, I again wanted to make it more complex, add another melody and change up chords. But again, it was Alex who motivated me to keep things simple for everyone's sake. Let's just copy-paste it for a second round. We'll add some interest with a counter melody later. Double basses, the Audio Imperia Talus low brass patch, a bass trombone, and a tuba play accentuated root notes that we will double with percussion hits later. The accents will sound a bit washy while recording, but it'll get much better once we clean up the articulations. We layer the bass with trombones and a male choir playing fifths 1 octave higher. Together, this already sounds quite nice. For the high end, we can simply copy-paste the bass synth ostinato from the main building block and pitch it 1 or 2 octaves higher, played by violins and plucked synths. What else can we reintroduce? Ah, yes, the signature sounds from the intro, and of course the piano and synth playing the main motif. A sub-bass doubles the low brass, and why not also bring back that root note bass synth? For gluing the sound together, we'll use full ensemble strings chords. This is what those additional elements sound like to create another level of depth to our climax. almost there. What's left is a driving percussion groove with hard-hitting accents. The accents will rhythmically double the basses, sub-bass and low brass. I still have to fill the space between the drum accents, but this will serve as a first start. Finally, here we have the fully orchestrated climax. Most of the frequency spectrum is filled, and we successfully used and ramped up the musical elements from the previous parts of the track. Let's recap. We took just 3 to 4 musical ideas and signature sounds to build a puzzle piece from which we derive the other parts of the track. We've created an intro that gradually builds the main motif and a climax that picks up that motif and brings it to a massive scale. In the next part of the series, we think about the build-up part in the middle and develop the climax to a furious finale. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.